Just the other day, for basic cultural reasons, I looked into what happened in the tragedy of Adolf Hitler. And one sees how he started, at least from the time he was in the position he was, with one great step of glory after another. And he was one of the most powerful people in human history at a certain point. And then in this documentary, it showed at a certain point how one war that he was fighting, that against the Jewish people, carried on to the end and with great success. And there was a scene in which the train was coming over these well-prepared tracks into the gates of Auschwitz. Of course, you know the famous writing over the gates, Arbeit macht frei, work makes free. And there, very soon after getting off these trains, they were put either to the left or to the right. One was straight into the gas chambers and the others not. It was, I believe, about 80% who went into the chambers. At one point, there was an encounter between somebody actually who was married to a German, but the German was part of the resistance and was in prison for that reason. She was trying to visit him and was on the train. At a certain point, this officer started to talk to her, and he came out with this. They had been shooting Jews. They had them around them in a semicircle, and just before they opened fire to send them into the beyond, one of the Jews dared to say something. God sees you. They opened fire nevertheless, and that word wouldn't go away. It haunted him day and night. The way in which so much effort went to serve the wrong side in that reign is, in a sense, a pattern which we see throughout life. How many people give their energy to serve the wrong side? I remember our prior saying that one day with regard to experts in burglary. On peut gagner beaucoup de mérite pour l'enfer. One can gain a lot of merit for hell. And so, also, in this world, one sees that people actually are expending energy quite often without gaining merit for glory, but just the opposite. This night, while waiting for you, I was at the gates of the cemetery, and it made me think of that train coming to the gates of Auschwitz, and how, on the other side of those gates, the story is just beginning. Hitler himself, as we know, ended it all with cyanide and a bullet. We also know from exorcism that he didn't make it on the other side. And therefore, all that was in vain. we have no idea of the proportion who find the same surprise on the other side. But we can observe that many are successful in this world. But why? And who are they serving? There is a secret with regard to not wasting one's existence. It is essentially to realize how much we need to do. Unfortunately, a lot of us are caught up in something that we can't stop. We are all the time being controlled by what we have to do. Some things then we must do, but we must limit the damage of doing them in such a way that we don't get out of mode. It can be done, and if it's not done, we will just be ourselves part of a machine and lose our humanity. And therefore a certain calm mode has to be in some way taken on. If we have to handle souls who are dysfunctional close to us, that becomes very difficult, especially if it's in community, in family, or professionally. But we have to have some kind of armor, some kind of immune system, some kind of barrier, lest the other person comes into us and reigns within us. When we were studying French in school, we were studying Albert Camus at a certain point, and we had this scene where the policeman in the midst of the bubonic plague there in Algeria was just saying "circulez, circulez" to the traffic. Keep going round, keep going round. And the author picked it up as a symbol of life. Keep going round, keep going round, keep moving, keep moving. Do we have to? The readings today talk about the will. The Hebrew might be more correctly translated, "You have dug an ear for me." The digging out of the inner ear depends to some extent on our allowing the Holy Spirit to get in and to work within. The interior soul affronts the exterior in a different way. He's not so easily contaminated. He does not become a part of someone or something else all the time. He has his freedom. And also he's free with regard to events. The will that is wedded to the divine will sees the manifestation of that will in every single thing. Our own mystic, Julian of Norwich, was taught that directly by the Lord, that nothing happens without a divine permission, that it's all foreseen, and that all is pushed towards our good if we let it. All shall be well. And therefore she was taught that there was a providence in things which could, if taken on board, give her freedom. It applies also to us. The Lord has allowed this. I wed the will that wills it. I am in harmony with the will that rules the world. I am free. La Sainte Indifférence, holy indifference. If this is your will at this moment, I want it too, and I am free. The person who is not free will not be at peace, because an event which he doesn't want will come all the time against him, and he'll be easily ruffled. I want to conclude with just one thought. When one looks over the planet, one sees a massive expenditure of energy. Often it's in the pursuit of joy, but it's a gigantic illusion, a wild goose chase in the soul, because nothing exterior can bring on joy. Whereas actually great affliction cannot impede it if the soul is free. It relaxes in the moment that is the expression of the divine will. Indeed, it is the sacrament of the divine will. And that moment, as a sacrament, contains all within it needed for the sanctification of the soul. The soul looks no further than the moment that is there in the form that takes on. As Maximilian Kolbe, going back to Auschwitz, taught his novices and young men way before he got to Auschwitz, S, sanctity, equals little w, the will, when it is completely equal to the divine will in all things without exception. When little w equals big W, then what happens? It's the fiat, all the time, never, ever, slightly withdrawn.